I want to talk more about alcoholism since I was just explaining to you on my last vlog what alcoholism really is. Let me tell you a couple of ways this manifests. I've seen it firsthand, again, in older people. Let's talk about alcoholism in the elderly. How interesting this is. Alcoholism isn't always something that makes it so that your life is completely unmanageable. But you can see traces of the mental illness in people that, that don't go completely into a demise, okay? So let me give you an example. My stepfather, wonderful man, he was my third or fourth stepfather, I don't know, and he was a man's man. He worked for Pacific Bell, I think, for years, and we lived in the Pacific Northwest, and he had a house with horses, and he wore a big belt buckle. He was a man's man, you know what I mean? He was a manly man. Now, I didn't meet him until he was in his 60s. He and my mother married late, and it was after several other marriages she had, and she married this guy, and he was great. And he was a old school, right? Old school guy, up and up. And he used to be a hunter and fisherman. And, I heard stories when he was young. I don't know, but I think he probably threw a few back, right? Well, in his late 60s, what I didn't know about the guy, my mother didn't drink. My mother was a godly woman, love her to death, right? Just, I don't know how she got stuck with me. She adopted me. So, whoops. She was not an alcoholic, nor did I live in an alcoholic home growing up. So, he, every day at 4:30, would have a snort. That's an old term for what people used to call a stiff drink, a snort. And even if they were traveling on the road, they would stop somewhere for dinner about 5. They would stop at 4:30. So he could have a snort first, okay? And it was usually whiskey, a couple fingers full of whiskey. I did notice that sometimes, especially when we went out, it was very funny. He would order a shot of whiskey and then his ice on the side because he always said that people really ripped you off with the ice. Right there, I should have known. We had a lot in common. Anyway, that was it. That's how much the guy drank. One snort every day, big stiff drink every day at 5 o'clock. And later in their marriage, he had a heart attack and was rushed to the hospital. And we all went to the hospital, and they took him in, and they had to do open heart surgery on him. And I remember I was newly sober. I think I was 3 years sober. I did not know anything about alcoholism. All I knew is I quit drinking and my life was better, right? Thought it was the alcohol. Doctor walks out and looks at us and says, "Why didn't you tell us he was an alcoholic?" And we were all like, "What?" Because to me, an alcoholic was like me. Can't work, unemployable, getting arrested, drunk driving, blah, blah, blah. He said he's an alcoholic, and he went into the DTs, he went into detox when we put him under, and then he came out, and we didn't know, and he is in delirium tremens, and he sat straight up after open heart surgery in his bed and had a bad reaction to the morphine. We were shocked. We had no idea. Now, when he got out of that surgery, of course, I'll tell you this, he did tell us, if anything happens to me, don't bring me back. Don't revive me. Let me go. If something goes wrong, take me out in the field and shoot me. I mean, he was a man's man. He wasn't kidding around. And when they revived him, they brought him back. He wasn't the same man, and he was pissed. And he declined, and he drank 24/7 after that. We put him into treatment center. We found booze under the sink, in the bathroom, in his Listerine bottle. It killed him. It was terrible. It was a brutal. And I now believe that when someone tells you they're ready to go, let them go. Everyone has the right to go on their own terms. I wish we wouldn't have done that, but my mother's choice, my mother was trying to save him. And she's a codependent. My mother is terrible codependent. That's probably why she adopted me. That's an interesting vlog we should do about the energetics of, I'm going to do a vlog on this, the energetics of how alcoholics find codependents. They're like little magnets, boop, 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 all over the world, right? And my mother adopted me. She was a raging codependent, I believe, before she adopted me, and she adopted an alcoholic baby. Wow. I never realized that before. Let's do a vlog on that later. But back to this, elderly people drinking. So that was my first experience with that. Like, alcoholism is not always like what it looks like. And in older people, he was able to slow his drinking down, even though I see now he had to have that drink every day at 4:30, or he probably would have DT'd. He probably would have shook and felt bad and sick. So he needed that drink every day. But it didn't appear like that. Now, there's someone else that I know, an older woman, and interestingly enough, I was helping her, and I noticed that she bought things in large quantities. Like let's just say, for example, she wanted this perfume, and it was, like expensive, perfume. And so instead of buying one bottle, she bought 4, and it was expensive. And when she bought online and she bought like a t-shirt, she bought 10. You almost think like it's a hoarding thing. But I know it's like when I bought booze, I always want to make sure I didn't run out. So I think shopping is her thing. She buys things she doesn't need. She buys an over big quantity of that, one in every color. Now, is it harming her? No. She has money. She's fine. She's a little old lady. But I can see the characteristics. Like, because she's older now, she can't drink like that. But it's manifesting itself in different ways. Shopping is a big one. And having things, like multiple things, right? You almost think it sounds like hoarding. And I got to tell you, because alcoholism is a mental illness, see how I was talking about a mental illness? You roll into the other mental illnesses, which is going to lead me to my next vlog about co-occurring or dual diagnosis. But a lot of people with alcoholism tend to be very OCD, right? Obsessive compulsive. And that is kind of obsessive compulsive. And I don't know if you knew, but the part of the mind, the illness of OCD, there's 3 of them together in that part of the brain. And it's hoarding, OCD, and Tourette's. Those all are the same part of the brain. So a lot of people with OCD will start hoarding. They'll flip back and forth, which seems odd because OCD seems like you'd be a cleanliness. But that's only what you see in the movies. That is not the whole story. So I just wanted to say that with older people, you have to be careful. You have to know what their history with drugs and alcohol is. The woman with the shopping thing also has a deal with pills. Like, there are pills everywhere in her house. Like, old pills from somebody else that lived in the house, and she's hanging on to them. That's a sign too. That's not normal. That's not good. And her friends are talking about doing like an intervention where they go in and take all those pills and get them out of the house because they think she might be taking them for any illness she has, not realizing they're 10 years old and they were someone else's prescription. So, you know what I mean? Those are things you want to kind of look for with the elderly. And it's harder with older people to get them sober. And I will talk more about this. If this is an interest to anybody, please let me know and I'll talk more about it. I have a lot of experience with it. Okay? Love you all. Thanks for listening. Bye.